What's going on YouTube? So when the Telluride first entered the market in 2019, it shocked the segment.
And each year they kept making it better and better. Last year with a full refresh, and now we're with the latest 2024 model with a big change.
So is this still one of the best SUVs for the family out there? Let's go ahead and find out. Now, before we get into that update, we want to start out under the hood like always. So you have just one option with the Telluride. It's going to be a 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, making 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque.
All models are paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And for all-wheel drive models, it's rated at 20 miles a gallon combined.
Now, of course, later on in this review, we are going to go out on a test drive, test it out extensively, get things like our signature sound level reading. But first, let's close up the hood and take a look at the exterior. Now, that one big change we mentioned at the beginning is up here in the front. Can you spot it? The amber daytime running lights are back. A lot of you guys asked for it. We asked for it because Kia eliminated this last year. So they changed the headlight design with the refresh. Totally fine. I like the look of this. It is an LED cluster across all the trim levels, but these two daytime running lights, they switched them to just a regular design versus the previous amber. Now we brought back the amber color. Certainly gives it a more distinct look on the road, and I think it'll really draw a connection to all the Tellurides that are also out on the road already. Now we got that out of the way though, let's talk about the overall front end look. Now, just like last year, after they refreshed it, we've got a lot of different trim levels, a lot of different designs that you can get going on here. So on top of the trim levels, you can add X-Line and X-Pro packages. X-Line is going to give you a more rugged and sporty design. X-Pro is going to actually add a little bit of that extra capability. Right now in this model, we just have the standard EX trim level. So when it comes to the finishes down here in the lower fascia, this is going to be a little bit smoother looking versus the X-Line and X-Pro. All models are going to have the Tiger Nose signature grille. Of course, Kia branding's right there, and after the refresh, they did eliminate Telluride branding across the hood. Now, as far as ground clearance is concerned, this model is setting at 8 inches. Again, if you choose the X-Line or X-Pro, it's going to elevate it to 8.4 inches. And let's come back to the headlights again. I just want to mention these are projector LED headlights. You have black surrounds if you choose X-Line or X-Pro. And if you want LED fog lights, you can upgrade to the SX trim level or above. Now, just like with the front design, last year the rear design did get refreshed, although they didn't mess with success too much. It pretty much carries the same kind of look as it did previously.
Yeah, Americans love the way this Telluride looks. There's no need to mess with success. I'm gonna have Drew go ahead and hop inside so we can check out our taillights. These, of course, are your signature Telluride taillights. I really like the overall shape of them. And as he pushed the brake pedal, you'll see that we do have an LED brake light, turn signal indicator. We have an incandescent reverse light integrated down here in the bumper. And so 2 out of 3 elements are LED, so that's not bad overall. I do want to point out though, you have to go for at least the EX trim level or above to get the LED componentry here. Otherwise, it will be a fully incandescent taillight. Now, we do have Telluride spelled out across the back, and then dropping to this lower area once more, we do have some silver trim on the EX model. We also have a little bit of rugged matte black at the bottom. As far as your tow rating, you're looking at 5,000 pounds for most Telluride models. If you go for an X trim, that's going to raise it up to 5,500 pounds. And then we do have exposed exhaust outlets. It's going to be the dual setup here on the right side only. I wish they'd make it a little bit more symmetrical, and that's going to be on all but the very base LX trim level.
Now, when it comes to your wheel designs, Kia is providing more options than there are Dollar Generals in the South. You have a ton of different ones depending on which trim level you choose. Beginning with 18-inch alloys on the LX, the top-end X Pro also has 18-inch alloys because it's wrapped in all-terrain tires, and then everything else comes with 20-inch alloy wheels. Here with the EX trim level, as you can see, we have a very unique contrast design with the gloss black finish here in the middle. Now, I do want to mention that Kia has not provided an official list of all 2024 changes to us today, so we're kind of on a little bit of a search and discovery mission together with you guys to see all the changes. But if they provide any changes that we did not pick up on today, we will add them to the description below. Now, coming up here to the mirrors, you're going to have standard heating and standard blind spot monitoring. If you want power folding, though, you'll have to choose at least this EX trim level.
Now at the side of the Telluride, I do want to talk about the overall length. We're looking at 196.9 inches, which is a very healthy size for the segment, although it is going to be a little bit shorter than something like a Toyota Grand Highlander, if that's what you're now comparing this to. Now for this model, we do have a lot of chrome piecings around our windows as well as on our roof rails. You can also get it blacked out or raised depending on which trim level you go for. As Drew mentioned at the front, this vehicle is very customizable, so really whatever you want, you're going to be able to find on the Telluride. Now, for those of you who think driving is really hard, and yes, I know that will statistically be a lot of you guys, Kia is including all of your active safety features as standard equipment on the Telluride, which is really great news. Now, the only thing that is not standard is that the SX trim level and above will get Highway Drive Assist 2.0 instead of the 1.0 system standard on all models. But guys, that's going to wrap up the exterior design of this 2024 Telluride. Let's see if there's anything new on the inside.
If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, let's go ahead and check out the interior. First, we'll take a look at our key fob. So you do have a standard smart entry system with remote start on every Telluride. This is the updated key fob that they added last year. Kind of has a more carabiner look to it. Feels nice and solid. And as we walk up to the Telluride, you will notice that it senses your approach and it'll go ahead and fold the mirrors outward. And then to get inside, there's not a sensor behind the handle, so you'll press the black button to unlock the door. Now, taking a look inside the cabin. Of course, there were extensive changes last year, but first let's go ahead and talk about interior color and material choices. Just like with the outside, you got a lot of different things you can pick. You're going to start out with a leatherette seat. Going to the EX or the SX is going to get you this real leather. As you can see, very nice looking design, lots of color contrast stitching and perforation. And then if you go up to that top end SX Prestige, that's going to get you the fine Napa leather. Now, as far as color options, you got a lot of unique ones. Of course, you got your regular black like we have today, gray, but you also have beige navy combo. You can even option on terracotta, sage green, or on this model, you can add a mahogany interior package for just a more premium experience overall. As far as the seats themselves, 8-way power adjusting on most trim levels. You can get 14-way on your SX and above. Also, when you go up to the SX and above, that's going to give you memory seating. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, as far as other materials in this cabin, it continues to be a very nice place to spend time. So over here on our armrest, we have a nice leather material. As we move to the upper part, it is going to be a soft touch plastic, and then you'll notice throughout the cabin a really nice looking faux wood trim here on this EX trim level. At least it does vary depending on the trim level. Across the top, you're gonna have soft touch plastic. Here's this big piece of wood. As you can see, it just kind of extends all through here. Very realistic feeling, actually. And as we go down to the lower area, these signature handlebars are nicely leather covered with a piano black finish through the center. But of course, you do have standard push button start, so we'll go ahead and fire it up. Let's go ahead and move into a first-person perspective for a closer look at all the details. I'll begin with the dual display setup, which was one of the big changes last year with the refreshed interior. As you can see, it's kind of just one seamless piece. We don't have the full digital gauge cluster, so the full digital gauge cluster is going to be on the SX trim level and above. This is actually kind of a digital representation over there, and then you have the 4.2-inch multifunction display in the middle. Of course, that has all the typical expected information. You can get the blind spot camera system once you get to that SX trim level as well, and then the SX Prestige is going to give you a head-up display. Now moving back, the SX Prestige would come with rain sensing wipers, and it would also include a standard heated steering wheel, which is a feature available on many of the lower trim levels as well. Of course, the steering wheel itself, typical Kia design, and it is manual tilt and telescoping. Now, as a family SUV, very important to have plenty of interior storage. So let's go ahead and check that out. First of all, we have our center console here. We've got a nice little storage cubby that we can remove, and then we have a large storage area underneath of that with a USB inside. Of course, here are our coupons. See how many of these, looks like Pizza Hut coupons will fit in there. Absolutely a bunch, and you're not even gonna have to fold them in half. Up in front of that, you got your 2 cup holders, another little storage thing right there. And if you press open this little console, you will find a wireless phone charging pad standard on the S trim level and above, as well as some additional connections. Coming back to the shifter, this retains a traditional style shifter. So just pull back for drive, bump to the left if you want to shift manually. There are no paddle shifters on the steering wheel though. And then we head into reverse. This is what your standard backup camera looks like. As you can see, we do have active trajectory. We also have rear parking sensors here with the EX trim level. If you want a 360 camera, you'll have to upgrade to the SX trim level, which will throw that in, and that does have the cool ability to move 3D around the vehicle. And then back behind the shifter, you'll find your electronic parking brake, brake hold, as well as all your drive modes. Heading on up to our climate controls, we've got a standard 3-zone automatic setup with nice physical controls here. Down below that, you will find 3-stage heated seats on all but the base model. And then if you want 3-stage ventilated seats, that's going to be included on this EX trim level and above. Right above that, we have physical controls for our audio system as well. So there's going to be 2 different systems. Lower trim levels are going to come with the 6-speaker sound system. Once you get to the SX, that's where the 630 watt 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system kicks in. Since we have the EX today, that means we have the 6-speaker one, and we'll give it a sample. While obviously not as powerful as that Harman Kardon sound system, the overall sound quality is totally adequate with this bass sounding sound system. I figure most people won't notice the difference unless you're really, really into audio. Okay, let's move on to the main display. So this is going to be a 12.3 inch display. It's actually going to be standard on all trim levels of this Telluride. With this display, of course, it's running the latest software on board. You do have built-in navigation. That's what that's going to look like. And you also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay ability. Just be aware that it does require a wired connection still. So in the Telluride, Kia is not going to be offering a wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay setup at this time. Up above that, we have an auto dimming mirror. Going up one more trim level gives you HomeLink universal remotes, and then one more trim level gives you the rear camera mirror system, which was newly added last year. And then up top here on the EX trim level, you're going to notice a standard traditional size sunroof. This is also available on the S trim level. And if you want a panoramic sunroof, or a dual panel I should say, that's going to be included on the SX trim level and SX Prestige.
Now I'm about to tell you why this Telluride's rear seat is about the nicest one in the entire segment. Proud of that pun there, so leave me a thumbs up if you liked it down below. Now, as far as the rear seat area, in all seriousness, we're looking at 42.4 inches of legroom, 40.2 inches of headroom, so we do have a ton of space back here. That's actually going to be a lot larger than the regular Toyota Highlander as well as the Nissan Pathfinder. It places it as one of the largest offerings in the entire segment. Now, as far as how much knee space there is, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9", and we're looking at a very impressive 9.5 inches of knee space, and we can also slide our feet up underneath the seat, and there's plenty of room to wiggle around. Now, as far as other features, let's go ahead and transition into the luxury goodies that's in the Telluride. So here in the center, we have 2 cup holders up top, nice piano black surround, 12-volt outlet down here in the bottom. We also have USB Type-C ports in the back of each seat back, so that's a nice feature. Up here at the top is where your main climate controls are going to be, so you have 3-zone climate, so the rear can adjust their temperature independent from the front. Back here, we have LED lighting. Additionally, we have vents coming out of the ceiling. Then let's turn to our door trim and see what features we have over here. We have rear window sunshades that start on the EX trim level and above. As far as the rest of the door trim materials, very nicely finished. Soft touch plastic on the upper part, more of that faux wood trim. Leather armrest portion. Then at the very bottom, we have a nice bit of door storage as well as a little bottle holder. As far as other luxury goodies that you can actually get heated and ventilated rear seats, but do be aware that's only on the top end SX Prestige trim level. Now, I do also want to talk about the different seating configurations that you can get on the Telluride. As you could see when I was sitting back here, we have the bench seating configuration on this particular model. That's standard on the LX and EX trim level, the bench seating setup. Other trim levels will come standard with captain's chairs. You can option on captain's chairs to this EX, though, if you'd prefer to miss out on that middle seat right there. But this particular model has 8-passenger seating, which is the most you can get in a Telluride. Now, as far as how to get into the third row, you just push this little button right here. When you do that, the seat will electrically slide completely out of the way, so a very nice setup. Makes it really easy to get into the third row itself. Now, sitting back here, I do have this seat reclined quite a bit, so you can recline the second row seats. The standard seating configuration will give you a little bit more knee space, but overall it's not bad for someone even who is a full-grown adult. And, you know, not much knee room to spare, but my feet can slide up underneath the seat, and the thigh support is actually quite good. So this is one of the better third rows in the entire segment. It's coming in at 31.4 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom, which does best the regular Highlander as well as a lot of the competition. However, it is smaller than the Grand Highlander, if that's something you're comparing this to. Now, as far as luxury goodies thrown in, we do have 2 cup holders on the side. We have a USB port as well as vents coming out of the ceiling. And for our third row rating scale, this third row I believe is in-law approved. It's not quite to the kid categories, but the in-laws can definitely sit back here for a little bit and ride along. Now, walking up to your tailgate on the Telluride, we do have a standard hands-free power one on EX trim levels and above. We don't have the feature turned on inside the cabin, but it's the type where you just walk up, it beeps a few times, and then goes ahead and opens the tailgate. Now, let's talk about the amount of space back here in this Telluride. We're looking at 21 cubic feet behind the third row. If we fold the third row down, it's a pretty easy process to get that folded down. We're looking at 46 cubic feet of cargo capacity. As a maximum, with all the seats folded down, we're looking at 87 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Now, if you're keeping track of other things in the segment, that is going to be larger than the vast majority of options. That's larger than the regular Toyota Highlander. It ties the all-new Honda Pilot, and it's a little bit larger than the Hyundai Palisade. So this is a really large amount of space for this segment of vehicle. Now, you probably noticed that I had to manually fold the third row itself. That's because a power folding third row is not available on any trim level of the Telluride. You will have to go for the Hyundai Palisade if you want that feature. Now, as far as other things I want to point out, here on the side, we do have the electric folding second row, so that's actually very nice. 12-volt outlet. If we lift up the cargo floor, there's going to be quite a bit of additional storage space underneath the floor. So if you want to hide something from view, that's a good place for that. Now, I did bring my tape measure to measure from the front seat all the way to the back of the cargo area, and we're looking at about 85 inches of space. That's a very, very solid reading. If you're curious as to what could maybe fit in this Telluride's rear area, a full-size refrigerator is actually 69 inches long. So you could fit a full-size refrigerator or also an adult bike in this Telluride's cargo area with all the seats folded down. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2024 Kia Telluride. In this test drive portion, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. You can see that notated on the screen right now, including getting our signature sound level reading. But first, we're going to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration. Nice.
All right. Now, of course, as we had mentioned at the spec dump, we have the same smooth, nice, 1.6 engine on board with the 2024 Telluride. As a reminder, 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque from a 3.8 liter V6 naturally aspirated.
And all of them are going to have that powertrain.
Right.
There's no other options available, no hybrid, no upper end model, and even the base one is going to have this same V6 in a segment where a lot of them are moving towards turbo 4 cylinders. You're going to get that on all Tellurides, which I think is a really big benefit for a lot of buyers.
For sure.
And as far as like how it feels, I think it is definitely peppy enough. It's certainly enough to get you up to speed very quickly, and it also just has that really nice smooth refinement that you expect out of a V6.
Right, it's certainly a class competitive V6 powertrain.
Very nice.
Nice strong sound to it as well. A lot of you guys really like that V6 sound. Let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain. That, of course, is the 8-speed automatic transmission. Just like the power delivery, this is a nice smooth transmission. Goes through the gears nice and quick. Put your foot down, you're going to get a better or immediate response. And if you go into sport mode, you're going to get even quicker response. This is just the normal mode we're in right now. I imagine that most people are going to drive around in this setting, of course.
Yeah.
Because this is a family SUV after all, and comfort is really the primary thing that people are looking for.
Yeah, and as far as how the power is put to the ground, we do have front-wheel drive as the standard drivetrain option. On SX Prestige, you're going to have standard all-wheel drive as well as any of the X trim. So X-Line, X Pro, those are all going to have all-wheel drive.
Now, as I go around that corner there, I do want to mention something. Of course, I said this is a very comfort-focused vehicle, but one of the things I really like about the Telluride is that this is actually pretty agile feeling, dare I say, for a family 3-row SUV. You know, it's a big guy, and it handles itself quite well. When you go around corners, the body is controlled. It doesn't have as much of a wallowing feel as some of the competition. And overall, I think it just feels kind of smaller behind the wheel, which is a good characteristic because of the steering being very responsive and nicely weighted.
But we're on a highway, and here is where I want to talk about the ride quality of this Telluride. It has been nothing less than very impressive every single time that we've reviewed this car, and that's going to continue for 2024. Of course, there's not a ton of changes. It was just refreshed last year, and the suspension, it just soaks up the bumps so well. You hit something, it really has little to no intrusion inside the cabin, and I certainly have been enjoying the ride quality, and the seats are really comfortable too. Now, we're also on our designated stretch of highway for our sound level reading, so let me go ahead and get that. And before we started slowing down here, we settled in at 54.4 decibels. As far as how that rates among its competitors, you know what, guys? That makes it the second quietest vehicle in the segment, only behind the 2023 Telluride that we tested out, which was the SX Prestige trim level. So that top-end model, that came at 53.6 decibels, so maybe a little bit more insulation for the SX Prestige. I do believe it actually has double-pane glass on that top-end model, so you get a little bit more insulation, but this is still the quietest model in the segment, which is very impressive. And as far as fuel economy is concerned, we don't have the official EPA figures yet for all of the Tellurides, but we do have the all-wheel drive model today, so I can confirm via the sticker. This one's fuel economy, it's 1824.20 miles a gallon combined, which is down 1 mpg combined over 2023. It's the exact same powertrain, guys. I imagine it's just a difference in the way the EPA is testing the car for 2024. 20 mpg is not fantastic fuel economy. It's okay for the segment, but certainly you're going to be paying a lot more at the pump than you would in something like a Highlander hybrid or that new Grand Highlander with the Hybrid Max powertrain. That's really just something to consider here with the Telluride. No hybridized option.
Yeah, we might as well get into today's slam dunk and airball, because that actually is going to be the Airball. A lot of the rivals now are starting to offer some alternative powertrains, and even Kia themselves, they have a lot of alternative hybrid and plug-in hybrid powertrains in other models, but not here in the Telluride. And we would certainly like to see that brought over to the Telluride, because just because we have the big 3-row doesn't mean we don't want to save some money at the pump.
And as far as our slam dunk today, I'd say that really just has to do with the overall value, especially baked into this EX trim level that we've been reviewing today. The value is really incredible, guys. We're going to talk about the pricing in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. But there is a ton of features, a lot of luxury in here for that price point.
And let me just say that the 2023 Airball, I believe, was that they took off the amber daytime running lights.
And they're back.
And now they're back. So thanks for listening, by the way. That's really cool. Not just to us, other people said it, obviously, but very responsive for a company to already be making an adjustment to that front-end design after just 1 year.
And the last thing I want to mention here is the warranty. You're going to have Kia's signature warranty, which is 5-year, 60,000 mile basic, 10-year, 100,000 miles on your powertrain. And how much is the Telluride going to cost? Well, it's always been a value player in the segment. That's going to continue for 2023. So we don't have a full official 2024 pricing yet. That will be added to the description later on when that does become available. We're going to try and go through the dealership and see if we can find all the trim levels of the Telluride. But as far as this one, the EX all-wheel drive is going to be $43,590 as a starting point, plus a few options on it, and $1,365 destination. We're sitting at $45,675, which is really an incredible value for what you're getting in this Telluride. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the 2024 Kia Telluride EX. Of course, we're very excited that we are one of the first people to be able to see the changes for this 2024 Telluride model. And if you liked seeing some of the changes first, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. We do our best to get the newest cars first on this channel, so you won't want to miss out on some of the latest cars coming out on the market. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, because you make this all possible. Also, if you haven't had the chance to check out our all-new website, please go ahead and do that at carconfections.com. We also have an Instagram and a TikTok page that you can check out, as well as a merch store. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.